Josh Green here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by top trainer, Mr. Billy Nelson, in the barbershop. How you doing, Billy?
How you doing, mate? I'm in the gym, but there's this wee barbershop's attached to it.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Busy time last week down in Telford with Sultan Zabek. Excited by him and the performance that we saw on Friday night?
Well, unbeknown to people, Sultan actually had an injured left hand going into the fight. He wasn't really able to throw the left hand much in the gym for maybe the 6 weeks training camp. But he said his words, and this is his mentality. His words was, "I've got another hand," and look what he done with that one hand. That guy, I mean, the guy's face was a bit of a mess at the end of the 8th round. So it was, and that was basically with his leading hand. But he's an exceptional talent, and he's now signed a contract with Wasserman, and he's putting the super featherweights. You know, he's putting the message out there that he wants any of them.
I was going to say he's been sort of a best kept secret, but those runouts he's got on Wasserman, you say he's got that deal now, so we're going to be seeing a little bit more of him over here, hopefully.
Definitely, I think he's back out in June, and then in a very good fight, and then it'll be, you would like to think, some form of eliminator after that, because he's number 5. So if he wins that, he'll win. When he wins in June, you'd expect him to go up to 4-3, maybe 2.
I was going to say, just looking at the performances he's produced and the record, is he sort of closing in on that world title scene? Is an eliminator something you'd like towards the end of this year?
He will get an eliminator by the end of the year. I think he's more than capable of fighting for a world title now, although ideally in June, a good 10-rounder against a good either top 15 or fringe world title fighter, just for another, because he's not went 10 rounds for a long time, but he done 8 rounds on Thursday and he wasn't even breathing. You know, he's a super fit guy, looks after himself inside and outside the gym. So big future. Punches hard, that boy. Very, very skilled. A credit to Kazakhstan coaching.
Another fighter with a big future who I had the pleasure of seeing just a couple of months ago in Belfast is Lewis Crocker. I mean, what's the fight news with him? Are we expecting an announcement of what we can see from him next?
He's going to be, well, it's not for me to say, but he's going to be in a big show, May or June, and against a very good opponent, a top 10 opponent. So I'm really looking forward to Lewis's journey. He's a ferocious puncher, absolutely ferocious. He really is. Big plans for Lewis.
I didn't get to speak to you after the win against Jose Felix. Were you happy with the performance? I think lots of people criticised him a little bit for the sort of weight and the size he was on fight night.
Nothing to do with Lewis. Lewis was never making 147 because it was too short a turnaround. 2 weeks after his fight in the 8th of December, he got asked to fight this fight, and initially a fight was supposed to be 154, and then we've actually brought it down. How much did we come down to? Was it 150? We came down to, was it 150? So for the 5 weeks notice that he got for the fight, or the 4 weeks notice that he got for the fight, we were planning on being 154, and then it was hit late that it was going to be 147. So I'm not killing my fighters. My fighters, their health is paramount.
More than happy making 147 for the next fight.
No, I've got to laugh at these. See, some people, honestly, absolute imbeciles. They make judgments on people they don't even know. You know what I mean? I'm in the gym every day with this guy. I know what he can eat. Wait, see if we had another week, 2 weeks notice, he'd have made 147 a canter. I mean, he brought it down to 150, and believe me, it was higher. You know, it was higher because we thought we were going to be 154. But if it was 147 more notice, there's no problem whatsoever. Lewis making 147, and nobody, bar nobody in Britain, will beat him. I mean, I've got to laugh. I've got to laugh at what's his name? Oh, what's his name? The Albanian boy.
Oh, Marku.
Marku saying that he got offered the Lewis Crocker fight when Congo asked him who's the bigger fights you've been offered. He says, "Oh, Lewis Crocker." Yes, he got offered the fight, but he said no. He said no, and his team said no. Lewis Crocker never said no, and that was before he was signed with Matchroom. But so Marku would get obliterated with Lewis Crocker.
Yeah, there's a lot of big fights that could be made for Lewis. Paddy Donovan's obviously one that's been writing its own headlines, but you talk about Marku there as maybe a possibility in the future. Chris Congo, if he was to come through that, there's big options for Lewis to get some wins in the domestic scene before he moves up to that world level.
Well, I'm hearing Donovan doesn't want the fight, so they're no overly keen on the fight. You know, but it would be a good fight for Ireland, I suppose, wouldn't it? It would be a good fight, and you'd probably attach an eliminator status to that as well.
We have to talk to you about Mr. Martin Bakole as well, and a possibility of fighting someone like Dillian Whyte, who is now seemingly back.
Who says there's a possibility of fighting Dillian Whyte? Martin Bakole's fighting Cassius Chaney in a final eliminator for the world title. That's what Martin's doing. Dillian Whyte, I don't care what Dillian Whyte does. With fullest respect to Dillian. Dillian's got his own agenda. We won't be fighting Dillian Whyte next. No, Dillian Whyte won't fight Martin. Let's put it that way. And if he does, his career will be finished.
Do you believe that Dillian Whyte's got more to give in the heavyweight division?
Dillian Whyte's a fine fighter who's had a great career. But has he got more to give in the heavyweight division? I don't know.
In terms of Martin, you talk about that eliminator with Cassius Chaney. There is a long line of people waiting for world titles. Is there any concern that he'll have to wait longer if he does win that?
Well, we're well aware that Tyson's fighting Usyk, and then the high probability is they'll have a rematch, and then the WA will call the mandatory. Well, Martin, by the time the second fight's done, Martin will have a final eliminator out and done, and hopefully another fight in the interim. And then when they've had their second fight, we either fight Fury or Usyk, or it'll be a vacated title and fight somebody else. We don't care who we fight for a world title. We'll fight anybody now. I mean, anybody. And I'd be very, very confident Martin beats anybody. But we've got to wait till these guys have their fight. It's dragging on and on and on. How long has it been? It's a joke, the length of time it's taken. And then they've got a rematch. Why should they have a rematch? They, by all means, have a rematch, but relinquish the titles. Big Tyson and Usyk don't need the titles to generate the money that they're going to generate. They don't need the titles. Let others fight for it.
Yeah, we've seen fighters in the sort of position that you hope Martin will be in take on extra challenges. Just this weekend, you've got Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang who are in a similar position, could be said. Do you see that as a risk when they're putting themselves in that sort of position?
To an extent, but they're getting handsomely paid by the Saudis to take that risk. You know what I mean? So it swings and roundabouts. It's more so for Zhang because he's interim champion. It's a win-win for Joseph Parker. He's getting well paid to fight Zhang, plus he's got the prospect of becoming interim champion. But there's a rematch clause in that in Zhang's favour. If Zhang gets beat, there's a rematch.
Yeah.
How
do you see that fight going? I think I've heard a lot of different opinions on that one. Well,
I think Joseph's my friend, and he's a right nice guy, but I just think he's too small for Zhang. It'll be, in my opinion, it'll be like Joe Joyce. It'll be like Joe Joyce Joe Joyce is big and slow and punches hard. Zhang is big and fast and punches hard. And he's a southpaw. I think Zhang will have too much from him.
Do you think it'll be a case of if Zhang does win that fight, it'll have to be done early? There's been sort of doubts over his engine.
No. Well, you could say there's doubts over his engine, but what if he takes a lot out of the engine of Joseph Parker in the first 6 rounds? Will Joseph have it in him for the second half of the fight?
It's not for me to say, I don't think, Billy.
Well, it's not for me to say either, but that is a possibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might take too much out of Joe Parker in the first half of the fight, and he might not have it there for the second half of the fight. I hope it does. I hope Joe Parker wins. I don't see Joe Parker stopping him. You could see him an outside chance of winning points, but I think it's, going on form. You can't go with a Wilder fight. He done well against Wilder, but Wilder was abysmal. Let's be perfectly honest. Tyson Fury's took the life out of him. You know what I mean? In boxing terms, the body wasn't in line with the legs at all. There was nothing there. And Zhang's last 2 fights have been very, very good performances against a good fighter and Joe Joyce, and he's put him to sleep twice.
We're also in AJ Ngannou fight week. AJ sort of looking towards that world title. It's been mentioned, of course, that he would want to be the man to take on Tyson Fury after he takes on USYK. How do you see AJ's challenge with Ngannou going? Is there a threat from Ngannou?
Well, I think it's a win-win for Ngannou. If AJ doesn't stop him, he's going to get ridiculed, the same as Tyson Fury, and he will. But then he's going to fight Hrgovic for the world title, and that's not a gimme either. I mean, that is not a gimme. Hrgovic on his day is a very, very good fighter. I would expect AJ to beat Hrgovic, but you just never know. But if he wins the IBF title, then he's justifiable. He'll probably fight Usyk but he can't fight for unification title, mate, because if Fury and Usyk have a rematch, the WBO is going to get called for, and the WBA is going to get called for. So they're going to have to gear up their titles. You know what I mean? Sorry, 2 seconds. 2 seconds. After the second Usyk Fury fight, the WBO and certainly the WBA will get called for. So even if AJ is the IBF champion, he's not gonna he'll maybe fight for nobody unified. What's it called? When he fights for 2 titles, he'll fight for 2 titles. No, all the titles. He'll fight for the title that either Fury or Usyk has, and the IBF. If he wins the IBF, he'll fight for the 2 titles. But not all of them, because they will be fragmented by that time.
Yeah, that's still a long way, of course. I mean, we've got Friday night to go. Yeah, I mean, some people have told me that they think Ngannou has more power than AJ. Is that something you would go along with?
Quite possibly, but he's not got the skill that AJ's got. He's not got the boxing IQ that AJ's got. But all you need to do is land, as he showed against Fury. I was shocked that he landed. But listen, Ngannou never won that fight against Fury. Fury won that fight. I was there. I was yards away from the ring. Fury won that fight. But he won it with boxing. And that's no AJ's strength. AJ's strength is putting pressure on you and opening up the combinations. When he does open up, he leaves himself exposed. And therein lies the risk of Ngannou maybe landing. But I fully expect AJ to beat him, probably with stoppage.
Big weekend coming up. Thank you very much for your time, Billy. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All the best.